Hello, world. This is Kim, your mental health coach and friendly mental health professional. I am so excited to come to you today to talk about all things mental health. And my purpose as a coach is to empower you to live your absolute best life despite traumas or mental challenges you may face today, because we have all been hurt by people. We've all experienced trauma. We all have mental and emotional scars from the past, and we all have fears that have held us back in one way or another. But honestly, persevering through these life-altering events is called survival. It's what we do with the experience that defines us and how we find purpose in our lives. We have the freedom to choose to be a victor or a victim. I turned my biggest life-changing, most painful experience into my purpose to help heal the world. Anything is possible with the right support and coach, honestly. My story of trauma begins with the wind rushing past my skin as I sped down the road on my road bike under bright blue skies. I had just finished a challenging 2-hour climb. Picture this. As I'm approaching an intersection, a large postal ground delivery truck turns in front of me and cuts off my right of way. And within seconds, it was bam, impact hit. I woke up, thank goodness, but was lying face down on the asphalt, wondering, was I alive? Was I in heaven? I looked around. I recognized my surroundings from before the impact, before the truck hit me. And the surprising part was I was not in any pain and I wasn't bleeding anywhere. And I took inventory of my limbs and everything looked intact after I was just hit by a large delivery truck. And so for that moment, I breathed a sign of relief, like, okay, I'm okay. Then the EMTs arrived and the paramedics checked me over, and they didn't see any signs of physical trauma to my body either. But when they flipped me over onto the gurney, massive shockwaves of pain shot all through my body, took my breath away. And as soon as I got into the hospital emergency room, and after they did all the tests, all those tests they do with a really traumatic accident versus, I just remember being surrounded by doctors and everybody ran in as soon as I rolled in to the emergency room because they heard cyclist versus large delivery truck. And usually that would not be a pretty scene to see, but they were surprised to see that I was like awake and talking. And after they did the test, they said that I had a broken pelvis in 3 places. Oh, great. What does that mean? I had never broken a bone in my body. It was my first, accident ever while riding my bike. I was riding like 100 miles a week for the past couple years. I was pretty experienced cyclist. So a broken pelvis meant I was totally incapacitated, trapped in the hospital bed for the next 7 days, couldn't walk, couldn't go to the bathroom, couldn't eat, and definitely couldn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I had nightmares and flashbacks of the accident happening, just replaying in my head like a constant loop. And I would try to get out of bed by myself and I couldn't. And it was honestly the worst pain I have ever experienced 24/7 for months and years while I rehabilitated. And I was always independent before this injury. I was working in sales, traveling a lot. I've always taken care of myself. So needing people after I got home from the hospital 24/7 to help me with my every need was a very humbling experience for me. And that continued on for the next few months while my movement was limited to sitting in a wheelchair and trying to stand up with crutches or a walker, and going through this very traumatic experience. Pain and rehabilitation wasn't an easy process to endure, but I wasn't going to let me keep me down. I was not going to be the victim of someone else's mistake that almost took my life. In fact, my life flashed before me right before the impact of the truck hit me. but God saved me from the death in the accident. It was a miracle, and there is no other way to explain it. From the moment of impact to becoming a mental health coach, I learned how to empathize and now help individuals just like myself who have mental health struggles due to these past traumas by no fault of our own, and who have a mental health diagnosis, severe hurts, grief, post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD syndrome symptoms, fear, anxiety, panic attacks, clinical depression, and panic attacks that occur unexpectedly, that are triggered wherever you are and totally just out of the blue. And over the years, while studying mental health extensively, I learned that these very painful, traumatic memories and moments live in our minds, our subconscious mind forever, which is below the surface, and why we sometimes get triggered unexpectedly by the most trivial things in the most random places. For example, years after the cycling accident, panic attacks started happening to me while I would drive at higher speeds just on the freeway. And they would only occur on the freeway, and like for months, it would continue on. And I actually learned while in school to become the mental health professional I am today. I learned that because I was going faster on the freeway, the speed in my car is what triggered my sympathetic nervous system. And because it's anything that reminds us loosely of the specific past trauma that we experience. It's my fight or flight response. That's what the sympathetic nervous system is. And when we are faced with what our mind perceives as a danger, it causes our heart rate to increase, our blood pressure to increase, and it's basically alerting us to prepare for action in case we need to protect or defend ourselves from the danger that our mind is perceiving as being a danger. And when we have traumatic events, our mind remembers those moments of fear, and it goes right into that fight or flight response with anything that is even close to the trauma that we have experienced in the past. And I even stopped driving on the freeways because I was so terrified of having a panic attack while I was driving. And panic attacks are so terrifying. If you've ever had them, they feel like it would honestly, like, it feels like you're just like, having a heart attack, and that's super scary. And I just got sick of letting fear run my life. And I used aversion therapy to now be able to drive on freeways and pleasantly drive on them to where I'm not having a full panic attack. And I would force, basically with aversion therapy, you expose yourself to the stimulus that is causing the panic to happen, which is the unpleasant stimulus. And basically to retrain our subconscious mind not to fear like driving on the freeway any longer. And I would just do that continuously. And it's scary because you're like literally facing the pain of what is causing the panic attacks, and you're driving a vehicle, and that's super scary because, like, what if I lost control? And honestly, persevering and overcoming these life-altering events is how we thrive. We have the freedom to choose to be a victor or a victim in our life. My purpose as a mental health coach is to create a therapeutic, safe space to dive deeper and help you heal and empower you to live your absolute best life.